Let's welcome our new concert conductor and music director. This is her first appearance for the children's concert, Dr. Carolyn Watson.
Thank you. My goodness, it's so great to see you guys here. How are you doing? Well, guess what? You're about to be better. So welcome to the LaPorte Civic Auditorium and the LaPorte County Symphony Orchestra. Don't they look great? And welcome to Fantasy and Fairy Tales, which is the name of our education concerts this year. So we're going to take you on a number of different journeys. And the first piece that we're going to play for you is set in Norway. Has anyone been to Norway? Put it on your travel bucket list, but go in summer. Yeah, that's the time to go to Norway. This particular story is written by a composer by the name of Edvard Grieg, and it's a story about a boy named Biege. And on this story, Biege goes on a very long journey, and along that journey, he meets some travelers, some other friends, some ghosts, goblins, ghouls, ogres, trolls, but not the internet type, and finally gets to an amazing palace called the Hall of the Mountain King. And that's the name of this piece. It's called In the Hall of the Mountain King. And it starts super soft and gets louder and louder as we add more instruments of the orchestra, and quite literally, it ends with a bang. So before we play it, I want to introduce you to a couple of sections of the orchestra, and we'll talk a little bit this morning as we go through all of the different sections and individual instruments of the orchestra and how composers use these instruments to make different kinds of sounds and tell different kinds of stories. So this biggest section here directly behind me is called the string section. I'm going to get them to hold up their instruments and wave to you. Strings. Yeah, that's them. They're right at the front of the orchestra, and you can see there's more of them than there are any other instruments. And they can play in a couple of different ways. The way that they're going to play in this one is kind of like you play a guitar by plucking or strumming the string. And there's a very fancy Italian word for that called pizzicato. Can you say that? Pizzicato. Sounds a little bit like pizza. So it's like basically pizzicato, yeah? That's how you can remember it. So have a listen now. Our cellos and our basses, that's these big, low bass instruments over here. They're going to show you how it sounds when they pluck their strings with their fingers. Yeah. So you're also going to hear, especially at the beginning, two members of our woodwind family. The woodwind family is sitting behind the string family. And just over here to my right, we've got two bassoons, yeah, the biggest instrument in the woodwind family. I'm going to get them to hold up their instruments so you can see them. Yeah, and here's the thing, they sound as cool as they look. You want to have a listen? So we're going to put all of those elements together. The strings playing pizzicato, the bassoons and other instruments are going to join, and we're going to take you on an amazing journey. It's the journey of Biege in the Hall of the Mountain King. I hope you enjoy. Yeah, it's one of my favorites too. So we've got another piece for you. This one is by a Russian composer by the name of Peter Tchaikovsky, and it's from his ballet Swan Lake. What do you think the ballet is about? A swan, go figure, right? And the swan is in fact a beautiful swan by the name of Odette. And basically her life's going truly wonderfully for her. She's met her Prince Charming, they dance together, but there is an evil owl magician who casts a spell on her. I know, how mean is that, yeah? Yeah, not very socially acceptable either. Anyway, what you're going to hear, first of all, is the water on the lake. And at the very beginning of the concert, remember I said music, the composers tell the story by using the instruments in different ways. I'm going to get our harp player. Now, harp's over here, I hope you can see the big golden instrument with all the strings. Yeah, and she's going to play the sound of the rippling water of the lake. Let's have a listen. So our beautiful swan is depicted in a lovely melody played by the oboe. Now the oboe is also a part of the woodwind family. We've got two oboes. I'm going to get them to hold up their instruments and wave to you so you can see them. That's where they are, that's our oboes. Have a listen now to our beautiful swan melody gliding over the ripples that you just heard played by the harp. What we're going to hear now, it's the same melody that you just heard, but it's going to be played by the French horns. And they're over here. I'm going to get them to hold up their instruments in waves. Say, hi, horns. Yeah. And all four of them are going to play together. And it's the same melody, but you can feel it's got a much darker kind of characteristic, yeah? We can tell that basically something pretty foreboding is going to happen because of the way that this is written. Let's have a listen to the horns. So, what I would like you to do now is to sit back, listen very, very carefully as we put all of those things together, and just imagine a beautiful swan gliding across a lake. This is Tchaikovsky's Scene from Swan Lake. I know you're going to enjoy it. So we're going to play you now a piece about witches, kind of fairly extreme when we've just had a beautiful swan gliding across a lake. Now we're going to play a piece called The Witch's Ride, and it's from an opera, and the name of the opera is Hansel and Gretel. Who knows the story of Hansel and Gretel? Yeah, me too, yeah? And if you can think about the witch in Hansel and Gretel, this is not really such a nice person, not the kind of person you'd want for your next door neighbor, right? Somebody eating children. And the music tells the story in so many different ways of these amazing witches flying high above the forest canopy, jetting through the sky, kind of on a Halloween night like we might have later this month. I spoke at the beginning about the different sections of the orchestra. Before we play for you the Witch's Ride, I'm going to introduce them and give you a little bit more chance to hear how they sound by themselves. So the string section, biggest section, and we've got the violins over here. Violins, can you just give a wave, please? That's them. Smallest instruments. Over here, we've got the violas, a little bit bigger. Next biggest, we've got the cellos over here, and we've got the double basses over there. Yeah, I know. What I'm going to get them to do now is to hold up their bows. String section, can we hold up their bows? You see how they play their instruments with two hands? In one hand is a bow, and that's a piece of stick, as you can see, a piece of wood there, with horsehair tied to it. And we make the sound by drawing the horsehair across the strings and getting them to vibrate, yeah? Who knew that? Go figure. Some of you did, yeah? Do you know the horse whose tail they took it from? Did you see any horses without tail? No, I'm just kidding, really. It's just like a haircut that the horse's tail has, but that's one of the things that we use horsehair for. Let's have a listen now. We put the sound all together. This is the whole string section. So sitting behind them, we have the woodwind section. Woodwinds, could you hold your instruments up? Yeah, so we've already met the bassoons, we've already met the oboes. Over on this side, we've got the flutes. Can you see the shiny silver-looking instruments? We've got two flutes there. And behind them, we've got two clarinets, yeah? We've got two of everything in the woodwind family. Let's have a listen how they all sound when they play together. Super cool, right? Yeah. And behind them, we've got the brass section of the orchestra. Yeah, so we met the horns over on this side. Let's have a look over this side. We've got the biggest instrument that you can see, the tuba. I'm going to get him to hold up the tuba. Look at that. Wow. Next to the tuba, we've got three trombones. Let's have a look at the trombones. Next to them, we've got three trumpets. Let's have a look at the trumpets. And our horns that we already met are over there. Let's have a listen how the brass section sounds when we put them all together. we've got one section of the orchestra left. Does anyone know which one it is? No. Percussion! Absolutely, yeah, percussion. And our percussion section is on both sides of the orchestra, yeah? Over here we've got Brad on timpani. Can you say hi, Brad? And he's seated behind 4 big drums that are on the floor there. Let's have a listen now to Brad play the timpani for us. Yeah, and these percussion instruments, we make sound on them by doing all different kinds of things. We tap instruments, we hit them, we beat them, we shake them, we do all kinds of things. So I'm going to get our other percussionists over this side just to show you some of the kinds of sounds that they can make. Yeah, now let's put all of those instruments together and let's make this amazing, amazing sound that is witches riding through the night sky. This is a piece by German composer Engelbert Humperdinck from his opera Hansel and Gretel. I know you're going to like The Witches' Ride. So the next piece that we've got for you is by a living American composer. The first three pieces we played by Humperdinck, by Mr. Grieg, and by Tchaikovsky, they were written over 100 years ago. This particular piece was written about 25 or so years ago by a composer called David Crow, who lives in North Carolina. And I'm going to get a little bit of help because we've got a narrator to tell you the story. But before I introduce him, I want to tell you a couple of things to listen for. So this piece that we're going to play now is called How Birds Came into the World. And it's based on an ancient Cherokee legend about birds evolving from the falling autumn leaves of the trees. So there's lots of amazing things that Mr. Crow does to create this beautiful story. And one of the things he does, he has the orchestra make the sound of rain. Yeah, when I arrived in town yesterday, it was raining, and we've got an instrument in the orchestra that makes the sound of rain. Who wants to listen? Would you believe that that instrument that looks like a big long stick that makes the sound of rain is called a rain stick? So that's one thing that you can listen for in this piece. Another thing I'd like you to listen for, it's the sound of the wind. And we make this sound, our brass instrument players, what they're going to do, they're going to blow air like what the wind does, but they're going to blow that air through their instrument. They're not going to play the instrument, but they're just going to blow the air through it. Let's have a listen to how that sounds. Whoa, it's right, yeah. And as I mentioned, this is a piece about birds. So let's have a listen to another one of our woodwind instruments, this time the clarinet, who's got a beautiful solo. And it sounds to me like, maybe a little bird sort of just dashing off a branch or something like that. Let's have a listen to this melody played by Joe. Did you say hi, Joe? And Joe plays the clarinet. So in addition to all of those things that the orchestra is going to be doing, I've got some help to come and tell the story. So for this piece, we've got a narrator. And I would like you to give a wonderful welcome and a round of applause for our narrator for this piece. His name is John Lineweber. Please make him feel welcome.
Have you ever considered how do things come to be? From the Native American Cherokee Indians, it's an old Cherokee legend about how birds came into the world. Many, many years ago, when the world was new, the Great Spirit walked all over the earth, making it beautiful. Whatever his feet touched the ground, flowers began to grow and trees sprang up. There were maples, oak, poplars, birch, pines, chestnut trees, and even the Indiana tree, the tulip tree. They grew strong and tall, and their branches reached toward the sky. Slowly their leaves began to sprout for the first time, and they were the most beautiful, fresh new color of green. Each one seemed to glow from the inside, not just the outside. The tender young leaves were very happy in this first spring. They danced gently in the wind and sang their sweet songs to the breeze. The sun warmed the earth. The first summer came, and the air was filled with thunder and lightning. The rains fell, and the rain fell with the leaves, and turned them a dark, rich green. At last, the days grew shorter. There was a chill in the air. The flowers and the grasses began to fade. One day, the wind whispered to the leaves that the day would soon come when they would have to fall from the trees and die. Change is part of life, said the wind. The leaves felt very, very sad, and they tried to be bright and happy, but it was difficult. So they did turn red, golden yellow, orange, and brown. It was a magnificent thing to see. It was the first fall ever in the world. But at last, the time came to let go of twigs and branches and flutter to the ground. They lay perfectly still, not able to move, except when the wind would lift them. The Great Spirit saw them and thought they were so lovely. He didn't want them to die. He wanted them to live and be beautiful forever. So he gave each bright leaf a pair of wings and the power to fly. He called them and he made them his birds. From the red and brown leaves of the oak came the robins. From the yellow willow leaves came the orioles. And from the bright and red maple leaves, what do you think they came as? The cardinals. This is why birds love the trees and go to them for food and shelter. This is why they build their nests in their branches. Because the birds know that the once, long, long ago, the trees were the mother of them all.
Isn't John a great storyteller? I think so too. Can we say thank you, John, again? So we've got a piece now that I think you might have heard before. Yeah, I'll give you a hint. It's about a guy whose first name is Harry and his last name is... Absolutely. So as you know, he is a wizard and he casts spells with his magic wand. I want to introduce you guys to my quote-unquote magic wand here. This is what we conductors call a baton. And my baton happens to be called George. And what George helps me do is he helps me show the orchestra whether we're playing fast, whether we're playing slow, how fast or how slow, whether we're playing loud, whether we're playing soft. Who thinks that sounds like a lot of fun? Yeah. Who would like to learn how to conduct? All right, so here's what we do, guys. Keep your hands up, and together with me, this is what we do. We go down, out, up. Down, out, up. 1, 2, 3. Look at that. Gosh, you guys are so professional already. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to play Harry Potter, and I've got a little orchestra introduction. When I turn around, though, I need you guys to help me conduct the orchestra. You up for that? Excellent. Okay, here we go. Here is Harry's Wondrous World from Harry Potter by John Williams. So do you guys want some bad news? We're almost at the end. But you want some good news? We're not quite at the end, so we've got one more piece. This is another part of an opera. It's an opera by an Italian composer called Rossini, and the name of the opera is William Tell. And William Tell was a really brave soldier, and he basically managed single-handedly to stave off an attack from a whole army. Can you imagine that? Amazingly talented guy. I've got a feeling you might have heard this piece before. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to get our trumpets. They're just going to play the very, very opening. And maybe you can listen and see whether you've heard this before. Yeah, do we know it? So I think that trumpet fanfare and so much of this piece really sounds like galloping horses, yeah? That's what the music is telling the story of, yeah? So I hope you enjoy. Thank you so much for coming. You guys have been an amazing audience. Here is the overture to William Tell by Rossini.